How's it going, Vikings fans? Your Minnesota Vikings finally get off the schneid, pick up their first win in Carolina. 21-13 win over the Carolina Panthers. Is definitely a game that we probably should have won by more. But see,
Definitely.
it's weird. Like, you say we should have won by more, but at the same time, I thought this was the most complete game we played all season. And I think one of the biggest things that really stands out to me with this game was that I think from start to finish, the offense was much more creative than we'd seen in weeks past. We started out with some, moving Justin Jefferson around a little bit, mixing in some of the run game, which was working pretty well. Did some play action off of that. So, I mean, I think that's where we got to start with this win here, is that we got the playmakers involved early with something a little bit different than just run up the gut, 5-step drop, that type of stuff. So overall, I mean, I was happy with this game. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it would have been nice to have turned it into more of a blowout victory. But at the end of the day, with a team that was desperate for a win, you'll take it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll take the win. I do think, and there's a lot of positives. Just like you said, like, it was probably the most complete game that we've played so far, but outside of those turnovers, like, you take away those turnovers, it's the most complete game. But those turnovers matter, because no matter what, like, I mean, going into this game, I said we have to dominate this if we feel like we're actually going to have a chance at this season, because we should come and beat this Panthers team no matter what. Like, the fact that we won 21-13, that's not really good enough, I think, for moving forward, as far as like confidence from the fan base to turn things around, especially going into Kansas City. And again, it's like, you can tell we are a good team. We should have won it should have been 40-7, but again, it ended up being those costly turnovers that ended up getting us.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, starting out the game with a turnover in the red zone is just not necessarily what you want here. But yeah, I mean, and I think, I feel like this was a solid game by Kevin O'Connell from head coaching perspective as well. There wasn't a lot of like clock mismanagement. The offense, it took a while to get into a rhythm. And I guess you could say they never actually did get into a full rhythm, but at the same time, the offense was consistent enough to score enough points to win the game. And we'll get into some of our winners and losers and kind of go more in depth with things in a second. But obviously, you still got a tough hill to climb here. I mean, 1-3 is not where this team wanted to be after 4 weeks. Obviously, with Detroit looking pretty solid, they're 3-1 now. Clearly first place in the division. I don't know, did Chicago end up winning? I know they were up by a little bit. I'm not sure if they ended up. Oh, that game's tied actually in the end of the fourth quarter. So I mean, if Denver could come back, find a way to win that one, then we'd be ahead of Chicago, which, I mean, we won't look into the future because we got to win, so we need to look at that. But I mean, if you're looking at draft stuff, then Chicago, they're going to have 2 of the top 5 picks going into
well, at the very least, it was
we can't look forward to that. We can't look forward to that. We got our first win. There's a little bit of hope is still alive here. 1-3, not where we want to be. But chip a chair, man. You got a shot. So
yeah, exactly. And that's no matter what, we're going in this game. If we lose this, I think fans are ready to blow this whole thing up. And I agree. I mean, if we would have lost this is a game. Yeah, some still might. Well, because the Vikings never did anything that convincing in this game, even though, like you said in the beginning of this stream, that, this was our most complete game. We still made the terrible decisions. And I mean, talking about even like Kirk Cousins and throwing that bad interception, and then Ed Ingram, again, another thing we can talk about as far as, we're going to go into winners and losers. But one thing for sure is that, we were all hoping to see Reisner maybe come in and start this week, but Ed Ingram was in there again, and he got beat. That allowed the strip sack on Kirk Cousins, the bad throw that ended up in an interception or whatever. So let me hit up a couple of these people in the chats. What's up, everybody? Hey, we're happy y'all in here. We appreciate it. We got to win. Yep, it's against not a very good team, but it happened. What up, YVP? Thank God, man. They made me nervous with Kirk's 2 picks. Dude,
the first one was awful.
No,
like that.
Like, no matter what, throughout this season.
If Bryce Young makes that throw, you're like, okay, he's a rookie, he'll learn. But Kirk Cousins making that throw, you're like, dude, I saw that safety jumping it. Like, come on now, what are we doing here?
Dude, 100%. And throughout the season, no matter what, we're going to have to worry about these turnovers throughout the whole season. We're at least going to be worried about them at all times, especially when we get in the red zone. It's going to be kind of like, oh man, are we going to like, we have to be on our toes waiting for a turnover to happen, because it's literally happened so many times in these 4 games. Also, Krish, we should be 3-1 for real. Honestly, at least you could argue we should be 4-0 based on, I mean, we've been better than every team we've played outside of the turnovers. That ultimately is the reason why we've lost.
And then the next 3 comments here is actually kind of where I wanted to start with the winners and losers, because mainly you got Young King, Davenport showed up, you got Big New, defense did good. YBP again, the defense didn't allow any offensive touchdowns. That's a plus. And I say we start there. And I do want to start. With Marcus Davenport and how the fan base was ready to erupt on this guy. He came in his press conferences. He didn't really get the feeling like he wanted to, was trying as hard as he could to be out there. I guess there was some internal discussions that the team was getting kind of frustrated, but he came in this week and he looked absolutely fantastic. One thing I did want to point out was how they were lining him and Daniil up on the same side of the defensive line. I thought that was phenomenal. Like, you think across from each other, but putting those 2 guys on the same side is too much to block. And we saw those 2 were getting countless pressures against a young quarterback in Bryce Young. Davenport ended the day with, I guess they only gave him 1 sack. I thought he had 2, maybe 1.5. But either way, I mean, 1.5.
He had one pressure where he I think
he started it, and then DJ Wanham finished it off. But he was making impact plays all over the place. 100%. He could have had another sack that really could have closed the game out earlier. How many sacks does Daniil Hunter have? I believe.
Did he have one in this game?
He did not. Nope. He had that. He had a good tackle.
He has 5 now.
He still has 5. Yep, for sure. And then Harrison Smith as well. Toss him in there. We've been questioning him, like how where's he been? And we finally saw him step up in this defense. He came in, had a sack today. Three sacks. Harrison Smith had 3 sacks today. That's what there's. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Harrison Smith, man. I mean, actually, the guy still has it. So I want to start there at the winners. Those 2 on this defense, which I thought played pretty solid. Like, phenomenal day for those 2 guys specifically, but the defense as a whole looks solid as well.
Yeah, I want to go before we jump too far into the winners and losers. I just want to take a peek at these. You see my screen here?
Yeah.
Let me get up a little bit closer.
Zoom in a bit.
At these stats here, obviously Kirk Cousins, 12 or 19, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, got sacked twice, which wasn't terrible. The offensive line was not too terrible this game. Alexander Madison, 95 yards, almost 150 yards combined with our
really like what I saw from Akers today too.
We didn't only 139 for Kirk Cousins today. And then obviously with Justin Jefferson getting 85 of them, Jordan Addison, we didn't see none of him, which I am kind of disappointed. I think there should be plays made up for Jordan Addison at this point. There definitely is with KJ Osborne, and I just think Jordan Addison is that guy.
Greg Joseph, all his extra points.
Yep, that's what really matters. Greg Joseph made all his extra points. Harrison Smith with the 3 sacks, like you said, Wanham with the sack, Davenport with the sack. Bynum still on the tear with these tackles, though.
Yeah, he had a couple really nice tackles today, too.
13 total tackles. Jordan Hicks with 13 total tackles. No, that's big. That's big. So, yeah, let's jump into the winners and losers here. So, you started with the winners, and you're saying Harrison Smith and Davenport.
Yeah.
100%
2 guys that people who've been questioning, where are they? And they showed up big time this game. For sure. And
we got Harrison Smith right here. I mean, this whole time we as soon as we got Brian Flores and we re-signed Harrison Smith, it was like Harrison Smith is a match or a dream match made in heaven. And we haven't really saw it yet up until this week, where we saw Harrison Smith use exactly how he's supposed to, ultimately getting 3 sacks and the strip sack that was the huge momentum changer of this entire game. And DJ Wanham, like you said, he was everywhere. For a guy that a lot of fans were ready to call him off already, even though he played 3 snaps. Obviously, his injury was interesting. We didn't really know a lot about it, but he comes in and he shows us exactly why Kwesi spent the money on him and how important that will be for this team going forward, especially if the Vikings do ultimately turn this season around. Even though I want to say this is not a game where I'm ready to just be like, oh, the Vikings turn around. We should have won this game. Too many mistakes. We should have won this game 40-13. Other winners. Who else is your winners?
I mean, obviously, Justin Jefferson, and I mean, Kirk had a very uneven day, I think. I mean, I know Salvador says give him a break. North Carolina's defense is tough. We were plagued with turnovers. Yeah, I mean, the first turnover, I mean, you can't – that's inexcusable. That throw was absolutely inexcusable. But, yes, early on, Ed Oliver had the hold. Josh Oliver had the hold. Would have been nice if Madison could have got over there, helped him block, so we wouldn't have to have had the hold, because that was not, JJ was able to get open in the end zone. Should have been a touchdown. Wasn't. Turned into that terrible interception that was returned for a touchdown. But I do got to give Kirk credit doing his best Aaron Rodgers impression, getting the hard count. And we actually did something with it. JJ took the deep shot. So JJ, 6 catches, 85 yards, a pretty quiet day from his standards, but 2 touchdowns.
Hey, we'll take those touchdowns. We'll take those touchdowns for JJ. That's like the only thing people have against him is the touchdowns. And obviously he can do it. He can get them. And those are huge. Those are huge. So obviously JJ is a massive winner in this game, 100%. Also the run game. We already brought it up. Alexander Madison, 95 yards. Cam Akers looked really good in this game. He looked really good. It's a perfect change of pace type of player for Madison going forward here. And I do think we're going to see a lot more from our run game now with Cam Akers. I mean, he looked that good. His speed, you could see his vision, his patience. That's one thing I noticed about him big time was his patience. When he had the ball and he's seen some open space, he kind of gave himself a second to look around to see open lanes and stuff. So I really like that from him. So I would say our Cam looked great in limited touches. Our run game was great. Our run game was great. Our pass game again kind of lower, but
So like we said, I thought the offensive line did a solid job holding up. Kirk was only sacked 2 times. But I see a lot of comments in here about Ed Ingram. And I think that's one thing we can point out is he had on the sack, he had a completely missed block. I mean, him and Schlottman, I think there was a miscommunication there. They let Jeremy Chin come right through. Kirk got destroyed on that one. The second interception, Ed Ingram allowed the guy to get past him so he could get the ball tipped and what have you. But Ed Ingram, I mean, at what point do we just put Reisner out there? I mean, this just seems so weird that you bring him in and he doesn't see the field at all. I mean, I understand it. Ingram's your guy, but you got to get over that. Ingram is beyond garbage. Yeah, Ingram just needs to get out of there. I mean, it ain't working out. I mean, I think you put him as a loser. And he had a lot of, like Kirk, we kind of had him in our losers category in a way just because he was very uneven today. Again, had enough time to throw the football today, I think. But there's a couple times where he, especially on the one turnover, the offensive line, mainly Ed Ingram, didn't give him any help. So,
and what up, Jordan? Hey, thanks for popping in here, dude. Jordan is it Salvatore? What's up? We appreciate you all popping in here. But yeah, I know that's one interesting thing. Obviously, we don't see what happens in practice. There's a chance that Reisner's not up to speed or whatever, but you just get that feeling like how much worse can it get by putting him in there? At least try it for a game and just see how it works out. At least that's what we're saying. I don't know. Maybe he's not looking that great. But as far as other winners go, I mean, do you have anyone else that you would put on there? I mean,
I would say Kevin O'Connell, because I mean, I had been very critical of his play calling up to this point, and I've kind of been critical about him maybe focusing too much on the offense, which wasn't working, and then not enough on the game management aspect. So I felt he was pretty solid, the game management stuff today. But there was really no big moments where he needed to step up, really. I mean, it was kind of a run-of-the-mill game. But I thought from the get-go, the play calling on offense was much more creative than we've seen. They were moving JJ around from the start. The second drive wasn't good after the pick 6. But I thought overall, I thought the offense was creative. That when the run game was working, we stuck with it. We did do a little bit of play action off of there. So yeah, I would say Kevin O'Connell, and I see YBP. I think Flores deserves a slight win. I would agree as well. I mean, I thought the defense was pretty solid. I mean,
for the most part,
we did have as a loser was the pass defense against Adam Thielen. He had 7 catches for 76 yards. I'm curious how many of those were for first downs, because I felt like he was he was getting us over the middle a ton. But overall, yeah, I thought. I mean, that's the thing. Going throughout the season, we all have said the scheme on defense is good. The personnel on defense doesn't quite fit. But now, because the big thing is, if you want to be aggressive, you got to get to the quarterback. There's a couple times that Carolina saw that coming today. They had some nice short play designs for that. But now that we have our 2 guys that were going to be our premier pass rushers in Daniil and Davenport, you're seeing that the blitz is going to be a lot more effective now, and the coverage was solid. I mean, on when they blitz. So I would say, I would say both coaches deserve a win. I mean, still, I think personnel doesn't really fit what we need at this moment on defense, but I like the direction it's headed for sure.
Yeah, and Pace Jr. is another example, another player that is going to continue getting better, especially in the pass rush game. I mean, I think he's leading the league as far as middle linebackers when it comes to, or inside linebackers when it comes to PFF grades. So he's a big one there. And I mean, I think specifically as far as our defense goes, it's the red zone. We weren't letting them do anything in the red zone. There was that one drive where they had like, I think, what was it? We had the, was it a pass interference penalty or whatever? They had a couple extra drives in the red zone and we were still able to stop them.
Yeah.
And they only ended up getting the 3 points there or whatever. So that, Ivan Pace Jr. is the steal of the draft, bro. He honestly is insane. The fact that he comes in and he's out there every single play. It's crazy, to the point where we don't even see Brian Asamoah at all. It'd be nice to see him a little bit, but man, Pace is playing just that well.
For sure. And was it Davenport who caused the fumble? Was that Harrison? Oh, that was Harrison Smith, right? One of his sacks got in there. Caused the fumble that Wanham picked up. Wanham could have had 2 touchdowns today. Honestly, he had that one right in his hands and he dropped it for the
he did
for a pick 6. But yeah, man. I mean, we finally forced some turnovers on defense. That was huge.
Dude, that was huge. We need that. That's what I mean. That's turnover.
That's what it's predicated off of. The aggressiveness is supposed to force turnovers. So.
Exactly. So that's a huge winner for defense overall. I mean, they didn't have tons of rushing yards on there, but it did feel like, especially Hubbard was able to kind of do whatever he wanted or whatever. And they were getting chunk plays on us. They were still getting down the field more often than we like. A lot of the old, first, second, third down, first down, third down, first down, that type of thing all the way down the field. So we did deal with that, but then in the red zone, we locked them up, which is fantastic, including the strip sack and the and at the end of the game there. I mean, just tons of sacks there. So those are huge winners. Back to some losers here. So we already talked turnover. I want to start right away. Who was it that was in here who said Kirk Cousins? Oh yeah, 89 Anthony Guzman. What's up? I wouldn't mind taking, to be honest. It'll be interesting. I thought if we lost this game, we'd be on a tank route, but we're too good. Honestly, our team's it's too good. We have too much talent. Even if it's just turnovers, we're literally beating ourselves in every single one of these games. And this game too, it's not like we win this and I'm just feeling so confident that we're going to just change everything around from beating the Panthers by 8 points. I don't think so. It's going to be a lot more than that. Kansas City is going to be the big test to see. I mean, if we beat them, then maybe we can feel a little bit better. But this is a Carolina team that if we didn't make these terrible turnovers, I mean, we might win almost 40 points to 7. So,
well, I mean, and as Jordan LaRoche here says too, in all honesty, though, it's Bryce Young. I mean, that's why we're able to do that against him. Like, it would have been interesting if Andy Dalton would have played, because Andy Dalton, the last couple times we played him, has done pretty well against us. But I mean, like you said, it's not a 21-13 win over Carolina, and Carolina is just kind of whatever. But as YVP also said, we got to start somewhere, and now it's time to put it together. And that's the thing. And you got to do that quickly because you have an afternoon game next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is where we'll see what this team is actually made of, right? You go on the road. I mean, and you can't even say a tough environment because they showed it. It was a lot of purple in the stands. There was a ton of Vikings fans in the stands. It almost felt like a home game at certain points. But you're 0-2 at home so far, and you have the defending Super Bowl champions come into your building. And like YVP said, now you got to put it all together. And if you don't put it all together against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs aren't even like themselves right now, honestly, because outside of Travis Kelce, they don't have consistent weapons. I mean, Kadarius Toney's been up and down.
Outside of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
You're right. Yeah, they have the Taylor Swift effect.
Outside of them too.
Right. But like outside of that, it's still Patrick freaking Mahomes, and we see what happens when we let those quarterbacks that scramble around. So, I mean, next week's that's the test. I mean, you gotta win. A little bit of confidence, and I did see Salvador says Kirk needs his confidence back, not playing like he should. He's still being.
That's back to the losers thing. Back to the losers thing in Kirk Cousins then, because that's one thing. I mean, he made some good plays this game, but overall he's pretty mediocre. Again,
uneven
for sure. That was a terrible pick 6 in the red zone. That is absolutely a no. And then even he still gets strip sacked and throws another interception. That's not all him, but it's not all not him as well. And then
No, it
only
was nice
100.
seeing him move around for that first touchdown to JJ.
That
He
was
stepped up in the
nice.
pocket,
That was
bought some
nice.
time. That was a good thing.
I like that. I like that. But 139 yards, 12 for 19, not
Right.
terrible. But 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He wasn't really pressured that much today. So, and you could tell, especially after that first pick six, that he was hesitant on his throws.
Yep.
He wasn't making great reads. Like so it was kind of a mediocre game for Kirk Cousins, but ultimately, he did enough to have to win for this team. It's just the turnovers. As like the biggest loser again is just the turnovers.
Yeah. And then
otherwise, there's not much more other than the turnovers in this game. It was a good game from most of our players here. Like It's hard to come up with any losers in this game because it's just those 2 turnovers is kind of the only thing.
And going back to Kirk as well, he kind of got lucky on that first. Obviously it turned into the interception after, but he kind of got lucky on the deep bomb to Jordan Addison because it almost looked like it almost kind of slipped out of his hands because it was so like up there. It wasn't like didn't like laser it to him. But that's the thing. But I feel like almost if he puts it out ahead of Addison, it could have been intercepted. Probably like that one was lucky that it was short, so Addison came back to the ball. And
I don't think so. There wasn't anybody over Addison on that.
He was double covered. I'm pretty sure he had.
They were behind him, but they were both behind him. I think if you make that throw, Jordan Addison scores a touchdown easy in my opinion. So I say that was Kirk Cousins. He underthrew that throw. In my opinion, that's not on Addison at all. Addison made a huge he still came. Addison did try to come back to the ball and created the pass interference ultimately.
Yeah, but also as Jordan LaRoche said, and then he allowed the best non-quarterback in the league to get absolutely pelted by missing.
That is fair. Addison allowed that blocker or that guy to come in. That was not a good block pass, and I'll give you that. But I don't think Addison's effort on that pass interference was a losing effort. I don't think so. He came back for the ball and ultimately caused the pass interference on a ball that probably should have been a touchdown if it was it was a pretty long throw, but still it probably could have been a touchdown in my opinion.
YVP. The only thing I'm not happy about there is that with the Panthers losing and the Bears losing, they might have the top 2 picks in the draft and have a great shot at Caleb Williams because they're getting rid of Justin Fields. Or maybe Justin Fields plays well enough where they decide to just stick with it.
He had a good game today, as far as I know. He might have. They did allow that comeback, so he might have started not playing very well.
Yeah.
But
the Salvador, he needs to buckle down, stop pushing throws he shouldn't be making, and he just needs to quit thinking so much, man. He needs to play like he did last year, because last year you could tell he wasn't thinking nearly as much. He was just going out there and letting the game come to him. And this year, it feels like we all thought he wouldn't have. Like we all thought, like he's not going to have that extra pressure of needing. Like with the contract year coming up, we thought he would just kind of be playing free. But at this point, it feels like he's thinking about next year's contract. He just needs to, just get back to being Kirk O'Chains, man. Just put the chain. If we don't see some chains on the flight home today, though he doesn't really he hasn't earned the chains, but give them to him anyway. Get that confidence back up there. We got to get going.
And
so
for YVP, we still in this. We're in it. Obviously, we're expected to beat this Carolina team. I don't think there's one person coming in this season putting an L on this one. So it's like it should have been by more than 21. It is what it is. We'll take the victory, but we got tough matchup. If we come to Kansas City next week and we win that game and we look really good in that game, then I feel like we can really get on board. But otherwise, I'm just afraid that we're going to end up being a 9-win team right in the middle of the pack, and we are going to grab a quarter. I feel very confident we're getting a quarterback of some sort in this next year's draft. So it'd be nice if we had a better spot if we're not going to make playoffs or even have a chance in playoffs. But hey, I'm just happy we're not 0-4, especially losing the Panthers, because things really would have blown up.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, our Minnesota Vikings finally end up getting their first win. I guess let's just do your biggest winner and loser. Like we kind of talked about a couple of them. Who are your biggest winners and losers in this game?
I'm going to so I did the polls in here. Biggest winner, the votes. We had the most votes for Justin Jefferson. Biggest loser, the most votes for I had turnovers, Kirk Cousins, and covering Adam Thielen. Obviously, I'll start with that. The biggest losers, easily the turnovers. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like without those turnovers, this is an absolute dominant performance.
Right. Which the turnovers do mix in Kirk Cousins to an extent. The first one awful, the second one tip ball. I know people said, who was he throwing it to anyway? It's like we'll never know where the ball was going because it was tipped. So like you can't blame that on him. But the first one, that was just the rookie mistake trying to force a ball. You know, I think he felt the pressure of needing to score there and just kind of went obviously the wrong way.
The biggest winner. Obviously, it's by far the biggest loser of this entire season.
Yeah.
The biggest winner, of course. I mean, I love JJ. He did a fantastic game. Kirk Cousins only had 139 yards. 85 of them went to Justin Jefferson. That's what, like, the first play of the game was to Justin Jefferson, and I was like, yes, that's absolutely how every single game should start. But 2 touchdowns is great, but I gotta go with the boy Harrison Smith. 3 sacks and a forced fumble that ended up in a score. He had an absolute crazy game. Also led the team in tackles. Harrison Smith, to me, bar none, biggest winner of this game. And if we continue seeing him move like that, moving forward here, I mean, our defense is going to come up big, and especially with the win from Davenport in this game and that pass rush.
Yeah.
If we can get our players to their quarterback, that could change our entire defense, especially in the secondary, so they're not sitting and covering their guys for so long.
Yeah. And since you took both the pass rushers, I was going to go Davenport, but I'll go to the offensive side of the ball. And I just think being able to run the football effectively is huge. I mean, Madison, 5.6 yards per carry, Akers, 8 yards per carry. Like, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that's how this defense is going to be able to reach its full potential. I mean, you run the ball, you use play action because Kirk is great at it. You have good threats at wide receiver. You have, I feel like you do have that 1-2 punch of a quicker guy in Akers and a bully in Madison, as we saw with him and Delvin, and Akers obviously being a little bit younger here helps. But it's only going to open up the offense even more. It helps you sustain drives. That's how you sustain drives, being able to run the football at will. So, I mean, I'm going to go with the running game, just trying to make this offense more balanced. I mean, obviously that's 265 total yards of offense, which, kind of isn't phenomenal, but it's a start, and it was consistent, and the play calling was creative to an extent. And I just feel like it was even though it's our lowest yardage total, I'm happy with how the offense played today. So
definitely, it's in the right direction for sure. So hopefully going into what's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, hopefully going into next week, we come out swinging. We can't let Kansas City get up. That's one thing for sure for this entire season. If there's a turnaround this season, it is 100% dependent on how aggressive we play right out the gate of these games, and don't get conservative in any of these games like we seem to want to do. As soon as Kirk Cousins threw that pick 6, we came out and ran the ball twice, and then a little short pass from Kirk Cousins, got conservative right away. And eventually we were down in points, and then again we had to get ourselves back in the game, and we started playing aggressive right there. So I don't know. So going forward, we just have to always play aggressive, regardless if we're up or down. I don't care if we run up the score on another team.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a tight end screen worked. That's another win.
Yeah. 2 almost. 2.
Yeah.
And it was 2 in the. They went right back to it.
Jordan LaRoche, I guarantee we beat Kansas City. Book it. I hope so, man. But that's the thing. But all this stuff we're saying, like, the offensive play calling is coming around. The offense is looking better. This stuff, we only had 2 turnovers today, and so whatever. It's like, this isn't stuff that you want to be saying about a 13-4 team that is now 1-3. Like, a team that's Super Bowl ready, you don't say this type of stuff about. But whatever, it kind of is what it is. Slow. I mean, much how the games were the first few weeks. Slow start to the season, obviously 1-3. But there's a hope. There's still some light there. But Kansas City, you need to come out and find a way to win this game. You got to steal one. And at this point, you almost need to steal 2. You almost need to beat Kansas City and San Francisco Monday night.
49ers.
Both of those are home games, which is big, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. There's a tough road to hoe for this team right now, but
if we do that, then we can get excited for a playoff push or something like that. But we have to do that. Right now, it's like we're still in the middle. Chances are we barely miss playoffs at this point, which is no Viking fan wants that. But anyways, hey,